Eckhart Tolle once said, "The greatest difficulty is the mental resistance to things that arise and the underlying assumption they should not." In other words, we forget that life is difficult. We expect things to consistently go our way, and when they inevitably do not, we feel victimised. Why is this happening to me? Why does this always happen to me? Why can't I catch a break? Peace comes from the acceptance that life is difficult. Many things won't go our way. We shouldn't be surprised. The reason Eckhart Tolle uses the term mental resistance is because this is all a manifestation of the mind. It's a story we are telling ourselves. We create a narrative. This induces an emotional response, and then we act upon that emotion. Think, feel, behave. If what you are telling yourself is unnecessarily negative or indeed untrue, you have created a feeling and a reaction that is no longer based in reality. I see this all the time in my own mind, and now that I'm aware, in the behaviour of others too. Some would say it's a source of great unhappiness. I would agree. This, of course, is the ego. The ego is powerful. The ego is also very fragile and likes getting its own way. Understanding this helps understand why society, and especially politics, is so divided. People create a rule set, an ideology, a gospel of how things should be, entirely mind-made, entirely of the ego, and then they tell everyone else this is how things must be. When the inevitable challenge comes to their doctrine, they are angered and react accordingly. If they get thousands, maybe millions of people to coalesce around the idea, they have a movement. And much like the bowel, it's best not to stand in the way of a movement. We are all products of the stories being told in our minds. Now imagine you take this philosophy and apply it to matters of global political importance. Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Palestine, identity politics. Then you throw in greed and power and you end up with disorder, war and hatred. This is the human condition. It's also the reason the most powerful want to control speech. If you are the one telling the story, setting the rules and handing out the punishment, there is little to stop you. We have to choose a side though, right? Sure, why not? What's the worst that can happen? Well, take a look around you. If your side right now is supporting Starmer and the European project, you want war. Boots on the ground, planes in the air, and bodies in bags. If you are on the side of Trump and isolationism, you want peace, allied with Putin and the potential erosion of the future of Western security. Trump equals peace. Peace is good, but you don't like Trump. Starmer equals war, but war is bad, but Starmer's a good guy, isn't he? These are two clear thoughts. This is why the reporting of that press conference has been so schizophrenic. Everybody told themselves a story. It's not clear what's going on, but they told themselves they understood. It made them feel a certain way, and then they wrote about it based on their inherent prejudices. The press conference was a display of raw human nature, as was the story we were told about it. It's why critical thinking is so important. We should never blindly follow. One thing is for certain, none of the leaders are doing it without self-interest. Trump wants a mineral deal, and JD Vance says the best way to protect Ukraine is to give the US an investment to protect. Putin wants to give the illusion of victory and provide himself with a legacy. Keir Starmer wants to increase his popularity rating. It can only go one way, surely, and doesn't have a single policy in the locker that doesn't shaft him or the country. Zelenskyy arguably stands to lose the most. He is in real danger of becoming collateral damage. Personally, I want peace. There isn't a war in our young people. They have been fed a diet of self-loathing and told there is nothing worth fighting for. Some would argue that war would do them good, but I don't see dead kids and bereaved families as a risk worth taking. My prediction is Zelenskyy comes back to Trump, cap in hand, and Trump leads the negotiation with Putin and Russia. Starmer's attempt at war leadership extraordinaire becomes a small victory for him. I think it will. I think he'll claim some responsibility for peace. Zelenskyy will either step down and remain protected in some way or face losing an election and end up exposed in some way. I dread to think what that would mean for him. And Putin will negotiate the retention of some of the land he stole. The idea that European leaders care about borders all of a sudden is hilarious anyway. But what do I know? This is all just a story I told myself.